Hi, and welcome to the first official answers edition of Ask MamaKat. Mama decided to get just a little dressed up for the occasion. Just for y'all. Alright, so let's get straight to the questions. Kitty from Texas asks, what does BDSM stand for? Now, we actually had a whole discussion on this in a dungeon chat room at one point, but she said it would make great, that should be included in my channel. So, I'm letting y'all know. There's actually a breakdown. BDSM actually stands for 3 different acronyms. We have B&D, or Bondage and Discipline, DNS, or Domination and Submission, and S&M, or Sadism and Masochism. Now, B&D stands for Bondage and Discipline. Bondage, often for the purposes of restraining a bottom, so that you can do evil and fun things to them. It's also to make them feel sort of safe or make them feel completely at your mercy. We like that too. Discipline can mean self-discipline, or it can mean discipline through punishment and reward, which punishment kind of leads into the S&M aspect. But first, the DNS. Domination and submission. Domination, person who takes the power in a power exchange relationship. Dominant is the person who takes the power in a power exchange relationship. The submissive partner gives up their power inside a set of preset limits. There's negotiation, the whole 9 yards. When it works well. There's often, like I said, negotiation, there's rules, there's a certain set of guidelines that each partner agrees to abide by within a total power exchange relationship. Now, on to sadism and masochism. That is actually, sadism is a person, defined as a person, y'all please bear with me. A sadist is a person who it's defined as a person who takes sexual pleasure from giving pain to another. And a masochist is a person who derives sexual pleasure from receiving pain from another. Sadism, obviously, is the act of causing pain for the purpose of one's own pleasure, and ideally for the bottom's pleasure as well. So that's basically the breakdown of BDSM. Now, Thad from Texas, also from Texas, a lot from Texas, says, how do you explain a kink relationship to the vanilla people in your life? Well, this can be very, very individual. Basically, you know the non-kink people in your life and kind of what they can handle and what you're comfortable telling them and what you're not. Personally, I am out to my family. My last job, I was out to people at work. My mom knows, doesn't want to know, but she knows that I am bisexual. And she does know about the poly. She knows about the poly. And she knows that I used to be a submissive and now I'm a dominant. When I decided to tell her, I told her in just as broad strokes as possible, nothing really specific, because she doesn't want to know. And even when I told her, she was kind of like, la 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 la, and she doesn't want to hear any more about it, so I respect that, and I leave it alone. But she knows. And she knows that my relationship now is that way. And that he's my boy toy. And, what you gonna do, right? Excuse me. Alright, Catherine, another one from Texas. This one's from Facebook. Prior ones have been from Kick so far. Catherine from Texas says, how do you get your partner to participate if you keep dropping hints that he's just not picking up? If they seem keen and yet nothing's happening, maybe pull out movies like The Secretary or 9.5 Weeks and say, could we maybe play some games like that? Could we do some things like that? Is that something that would interest you? Truthfully, you can't make anybody do something that they don't want to do, especially when you're wanting them to be the top and be the dominant, because a lot of people are just dominant enough to not let themselves be forced into dominating somebody, which sucks for submissives who really want to get terrible things done to them. But again, you know your relationship better than anyone else, and Mama Cat is not a licensed therapist, or nor do I have education background in kink or BDSM lifestyle. I've just been involved in real life BDSM since 1999. I've been an active Munch member since 2000. I think, yeah, 2001, somewhere in there. Active in the Fort Wayne Munch in Indiana, and now active in my local Munch here in Alabama. And at one point was a hostess. I'm very, very involved in education and all of that. When I was a submissive, I used to run a submissives group back in Indiana. So, you can, because men don't do hints. My man will tell you straight up, I don't do hints. Just ask for what you want. And sometimes you just have to ask for what you want, because the hints just aren't getting it. Speaking of The Secretary, there was a scene where she's with her Nilla boyfriend and she hands him the hairbrush and bends over his lap, basically. And he's just not getting it. He's really not getting what she wants, because his mindset's not set in that direction. And it's a very frustrating situation for her. And, I'm always about love the one you're with, for sure. Be with the one that you love, and if you can have a kink relationship and the love relationship, great. If not, eventually, maybe if you're not getting what you need out of this relationship, then maybe it's time to move on. And then, along with that question, was also Melissa from Michigan, also from Facebook, says, how do you encourage the tendencies that you know are there to come forward? Melissa goes on to describe some health relationships with her husband and how he's kind of shying away from sex lately because he gets... it's really a big blow to a man's ego when they're having trouble in the bedroom department, because it's such a big part of a man's identity to be a virile sexual human being. And when they're not, it just really takes the wind out of their sails, so to speak. I think maybe those medical issues need to be addressed first, and I can't remember whether you said those have yet been addressed or not, or if he just refuses to go to the doctor. I honestly can't remember, and I'm sorry. But that will probably have to be a big part of what goes on before there can even be a discussion about, okay, once we resume having sex, can we have some kinky sex? Which I'm all for. But even when you're not having sex, for whatever reason, there are things that you can do to build your man up. And it may be that you guys need to instigate a name that you call one another, or a phrase that gets used when you want to switch from everyday life and all the things and all the stuff that goes along with that into DS mode, because for some people it is sort of just in the bedroom or just during special time or whatever, and that's okay. There's as many ways of practicing BDSM and kink as there are people practicing it, because everybody likes things just a little bit different. And thank heaven, or there'd be a run on like the one kind of toy or the one kind of furniture or whatever. If everybody liked the same thing, then number one, I'd be a lot busier than I am because everybody would want me. Anyway, so maybe there needs to be a pre-agreed upon phrase or a name that you call him, or a name that maybe you encourage him to call you when you're going to be in those modes. But the biggest thing is always, anybody who ever asks me, how do I get so-and-so to be more dominant, my answer is always, first and foremost, be more submissive. If that's not in place, if you're kind of taking charge in daily life, then it's going to be really, really hard for them then to wrest that control back from you when you want to be pampered and taken care of and submissive. So work on it all the time. And that's, well, nope, we have time for one more question. One more question. Roxy from my home state of Alabama asks, as an SM switch, because Mama is, and maybe I should have had an introduction, Mama is 45, from Alabama originally, living back in Alabama now, DS Dom, I don't like being told what to do, SM switch, because I came up as a bottom and a submissive, and I kind of never lost my taste for bottoming, so I do still bottom occasionally. I'm lucky enough now to have a submissive who was taught to do a lot of things, a lot of flogging, fire play, cupping, a lot of different things, and what he wasn't taught to do, we've been exploring together. So he actually doesn't mind, because he was used sometimes as a demo dummy from the top. Like if they were showing more than one thing at a time, sometimes he'd have to be topping over here while his former master was topping over here. And both of them as part of the demo. So, yay for me. So, she says, as an SM switch, do you prefer hitting or being hit? Depends on my mood. It really does. There are some days that I've just had enough of being in charge. I need to switch my brain off for a little while and have things done to me that make me forget about anything but what's going on right there in the moment. But honestly, those times are fewer and farther in between than my actual predatory topping instincts. I would usually much rather hit somebody than be hit. Just my personal preference. Thank y'all so much. If you have any questions for Ask Mama Kat, please leave questions in the comments below, or feel free to send me a tweet on at catwithclaws1. That's at KATWITHCLAUSE, the number 1. Thanks a lot. Have a great day. Mama loves you.